By the end of this video, you'll know what with God actually means in John 1:1, what the Greek can mean and what it cannot mean. When people read the opening line of John's Gospel, they often assume the language is vague. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. That word with sounds simple, almost throwaway, as if it could stretch to cover all kinds of ideas. But John is not being loose here, he's being precise. And once you see what he chose to say and what he deliberately did not say, several common interpretations quietly disappear. John writes that the Word was with God. In Greek, the phrase is pros ton theon. That matters because if John only wanted to describe proximity, he had easier options. He could have used a word that simply meant beside. He didn't. He chose pros. And pros does something very specific. At its core, pros means towards, not static location, not vague association, orientation, direction, when used of persons. It regularly carries the sense of face-to-face presence. Not merely being near someone, but being turned towards them. So the phrase does not just describe where the word is, but how the word exists in relation to God. That immediately rules out a common mistake. John is not saying the word was simply alongside God, as if two things happen to be next to each other. You can be near something without being orientated towards it. John chose a word that implies personal presence and relational direction. The word is not an abstraction floating near God, the word is toward God. This also cannot be reduced to cooperation or agreement. Sometimes people soften the phrase and say it just means the word was aligned with God's purpose or working with God. But pros doesn't describe teamwork, it describes relational posture. You can agree with an idea, you cannot be toward an idea in the same way you can be toward a person. John's language assumes personal presence on both sides, and here the pressure increases. John does not say the word came toward God. He says the word was toward God. This is not a movement that begins in time. It's a state of existence. From the beginning, the word exists in this relational orientation, not carried into it, not promoted into it, already there. At the same time, John is careful. In this clause, he does not collapse the word into the Father. Pros ton theon preserves distinction. The word is not Father, not a mode, not a role God plays. The word exists in personal relationship towards God, distinct yet inseparable in presence. That balance is intentional. This also rules out another escape. The word cannot simply mean God's plan, God's wisdom, or God's internal thought. Plans are not towards someone. Thoughts do not face God. Attributes do not stand in relationship. If the word were merely an impersonal quality, John's verb choice would make no sense. His grammar already blocks that reading. Notice something else. John does not stop to explain this. He does not defend it, he simply states it. That tells us he expects the language to be understood. He's not smuggling in philosophy or writing poetry for effect. He's using ordinary relational language to describe something extraordinary. Before John ever talks about flesh, he makes sure you understand relationship. So when later we read that the word became flesh, that is not the beginning of the word. It is not the word entering into a new mode of relation. It is the word entering into a new mode of relation to creation. The relationship between the word and God already established before anything else is made. John makes that clear first. So when John says the word was with God, he's not being vague, he's being exact. The word eternally exists in personal face-to-face relational orientation towards God, not absorbed into God, not separate from God, not a mere attribute, but personally distinct and personally present. Once you see that, certain interpretations don't need to be argued against. They simply no longer fit the grammar. That is the ground John places you on before he says anything else. And once you're standing there, the rest of the prologue reads very differently. In the next video, we'll look at the final phrase of verse 1 and why John says the Word was God without collapsing the distinction he's just established. The title of the video is The Word Was God. What John is saying and what he refuses to say.